for anyone else that comes. Hopefully it works. So for everyone in section 1 that's here, I'm Peter. I'm one of the TAs for section 2. So far, for some of the stuff that people have said that they want to go over, are some of the things like methods, classes, objects, things like that, inputs from HTML, functions, document dot stuff. Is there anything else that people want to go over? We're kind of trying to focus on HTML side of things. Is there anything else? I'm also have a demo for kind of like things that would show up on the group project.
So that's a way like strings, like extracting date and time, stuff like that,
Like, what do you mean? Like getting an input from?
Like there's a long reading of strings, and then not discussed in class, like extracting date and time.
So we're not going over that kind of stuff today. We're going to be doing more HTML side of things. This is mostly going to be a review so that like for the group project and things like that, you at least have someone on your group that can understand what's going on with the HTML. If you want to talk about strings and stuff though, we can chat later. Is that cool? Okay. Anything else other than these things that people want to kind of go over? And then obviously I have my demo, and hopefully that'll go well. Okay, let's talk about a few of these things. One of the things that kind of got brought up about something that could hopefully be helpful for people. We'll discuss this briefly because we're going to get more into this in class. Sometimes when Dr. Anderson talks about all the different things with methods, classes, objects, it can get kind of confusing because he's kind of searching for the answer, or he's like doing this, things like that. And it's like, what are you trying to say here? Really quick what he's talking about, like especially with objects. As he said before in class, everything in JavaScript is an object. So if I create, let me change this to JavaScript. If I create a var x equals 0, x is describing a number, and that is an object in JavaScript. Because it is a number, it has properties and methods available to it. Actually, let's do a string, so like hello world. So now that x is a string, it's an object, which means that I can use dot to access different things on that object, like properties or methods on it. So most of these, you should see something just like show up in here. So like dot length, I can get the length of that string. So that is just telling me the length property, and that's all the dot is doing. It's either accessing a property or a method. Methods, as he said, same as functions, but let's see, like if I wanted to do 2 lowercase, this would be a method, and I have to add in the parentheses to invoke it or to call it. So basically with a dot, you're either accessing a property or a method. Methods need to be called just like functions using the parentheses. Sometimes they need to have things passed in. Sometimes they don't. Like this one is just saying, hey, take whatever you have in hello world. So let's just say it's like world, like that. Make it all lowercase. And that's what that method is doing. And just spit that back out. So that's kind of like what he's saying with all the dot stuff. It's just properties and methods. That's all that they are. Classes, I'm not going to touch too much on right now. We're going to get into those in in the next couple of weeks with creating classes that will create objects. What's important for you guys to know right now is your document. He said that that's basically your DOM, or what's happening in your HTML. Let me create a new thing quick. So I just created an HTML document right here. This is my DOM, my document. Or DOM is document object model.
What's the short version?
If you're on a Mac, it's control space, and then I can just type in HTML, and like over here it's showing what it's going to print out. So like I have a whole bunch of different snippets that I could do. A bunch of them are JavaScript snippets, so they don't really mean anything, or like React snippets. But HTML is a great one for just, honestly, if you can go out and find things like this, it makes your life so much easier. And just like testing out different shortcuts on VS Code. So now if I'm in my JavaScript, like if I'm in my script tag, let's just get rid of this source, don't worry about that. And I wanted to say document dot something, it's saying, hey, go to your HTML. Specifically, we're going to be looking in the body because that's all that we really care about. And we're saying, go find something in there. So like if I make a p tag that has an ID of p tag, okay? Then I can do my get element by ID, which is a function, pass in the name that I'm looking for, the ID that I'm looking for, and now this and now what's happening from here is I'm now accessing this object within the document. Does that make sense?
Double quotes and single quotes.
Don't matter. Don't matter. Doesn't matter, sorry. Yeah, so if I did this, just as long as they're the same both sides. So here, I'm accessing everything within the document object. At this point, if I do another dot, I'm accessing everything that's available to this object, the object that I've specified most recent in the chain of things. Does that kind of make sense? Where you're chaining on, where you can access different objects as you go on. So at this point, it's no longer document that we're going to be looking at, but now I can say like my inner HTML equals new content or something. So now what would happen if I were to throw up this page, it would go and it would find the document, which is here in the body, go and find an element with the ID p tag, and now it's saying, okay, now within this, there's a property called inner HTML, and I'm going to set the value of that to new content. And that's basically, inner HTML is basically saying, okay, if I opened up this tag, just paste whatever you put in inner HTML, put that right in here. Does that make sense? So when you're doing homework 5 and it says like document get element by ID, and then it's like output games or whatever, .inner HTML, and then you're setting that equal to output, you're taking everything that you can concatenate it into your output there and then sticking it inside of that p tag. And that's how it's showing up on the screen.
So with what you just said, in place of the new content, you can just stick the entire function, or?
What do you mean?
What you just said. So with the JavaScript, you're taking something and putting it into the HTML.
Okay. Like if you're doing the inner HTML, yeah.
Okay. And in your example, you have new content, and that would stick it into the HTML down there.
Yep.
So would you be able to stick an entire like block of code, or like in case of our homework, like it just sticks it all in there?
Yeah, so if you had like, if this was a variable, like var output equals new content instead, if it was that, which is basically what you've been doing, you've just been concatenating on, so then you're like output plus equals something else, right? Or I guess I should do it this way, output plus, right? So you've been concatenating on, so there's a whole bunch of different stuff. So we're doing like a whole bunch of these lines, like I know you're doing a for loop to go through everything, but you have just basically you're concatenating on output, and then you're just setting it equal to output. So that output variable just evaluates to a string that has new content and then something else, something else, something else, something else. And so that's all that we're doing there. Yep. Any other questions about this kind of thing? Okay. Let me look at some of the other stuff. I don't know how to move this thing. So functions, as we kind of talked about in class and everything, and we're going to be going over this stuff more, but functions are just a block of code that you has stuff written in it that you can call, and it's basically reusable code. So let's see. So like in here, in my script tag, this just gets executed right away because it's not within a function. If I put this in a function called like myfunc or something like that, just take all this and paste it in there, then it won't get called because it's waiting for someone to call my function.
You've only defined the function.
We've only defined it. Now it's waiting for someone to call it. So later on, maybe after everything else, I have another script tag. And down here is when I actually call the function after the rest of my page has loaded or whatever. In your HTML, you can write functions up above your body and then call them in your body, which is really useful because we can link them. We're not going to get into that, but basically if I had a separate sheet, we can say like main.js or something like that. And everything that is in main.js will be accessible within that HTML document. And I can write code in my separate JavaScript file that can access everything that can be found in the document, the DOM, in this HTML file. Does that make sense?
So you can just have a sheet full of functions and not clutter up your new page with all of it.
Exactly. So you can, it's kind of this, kind of like decoupling where it's not all in one place. Same thing with your CSS. I don't know, in 201, did you have like a separate page for your style sheet? It's the same exact concept where you have that. Does that kind of make sense? Okay. Let me look at this. We've kind of gone over some document stuff. I want to get more into the actual HTML and things that we're going to be going over. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if you just said this, but if you were to make a JavaScript file and have an HTML file also, you create a function in your JavaScript file. Can you call that from the JavaScript to HTML? I know you could like use CSS files.
Yeah.
Function from there.
Yeah. Here, I can try. Do you guys want to see a demo of that really quick? Okay, let's just take this. So we're going to take this myfunc and we're going to put it in here and we're going to name this JavaScript file name. Okay. So now this function exists inside of this main JavaScript, right? Let's save this file and just call it demo1 maybe. Demo1.html. Okay, I've already made demo1. Demo2. Okay, so and let's get rid of it here. So now we have a script tag that its source is that main.js. And because they're in the same folder, this will work. If it was in a different folder, we'd have to do like change the path, but we're not going to worry about that. And then we're going to let's just have this script at the very bottom called myfunc. So that should be calling the function from the other one. Now let's just go 127. This is really nice. If you guys have if you guys are using the live code stuff or live server, it should just be creating a server at this address. And then if you're in a folder, you can go and like select which thing you want to go to. So now if we go to demo2, we're going to see, let's slow this down. Don't care about that. So let's put let's just put a breakpoint where I have myfunc, okay? So what this is doing is just saying, hey, once you get to this point, pause the execution of the code so that it doesn't keep going. So let's refresh. Right now, all it says is new content because that's all we had in our HTML. Now now that I'm down here in myfunc, it's going to, if I step into this, I can do step into next function call. This is all in inspect. It's a great way to debug, especially if you're looking at all your web stuff. I'm going to step into the next function call. So I'm going to step into myfunc, and now it takes me to my main.js file. Can you see that? Okay, let's see if we can zoom in. So it took me to the function that's in main.js, where now I can, oh wow, what is happening? That's on here. Now I can step through and see that output is actually become, like, it's getting longer and longer and longer until finally it gets down to document.getElementById. So I'm getting that p tag and setting the inner HTML equal to output, and that's where we sit here. Where new content, that originally new content disappears and it is replaced by everything in output. So you can do that linking. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay.
So basically, what you do is you use source and you make it equal to the file you want it to come from.
Yeah.
And then how does it matter when you call that file after that?
Like the function?
Yeah.
I would say, so you wanna make sure to be calling your function after you've imported the file, or else it's gonna be like, hey, I'm trying to call this function, I don't know where it lives. But as long as you call it beforehand, before it, then it's fine. So if I did something like this, actually don't do this, but like it would know to go get that function. The problem is it's going to try and execute this function before the p tag is created. So it's going to say, hey, document, give me the p tag element. And it's going to be like, wait, I don't have a p tag element. I don't have anything created yet, because it executes before getting down into the body. Does that make sense? Anyway, so that's just a little bit about those kind of things. Does anyone want a really quick review of just like the basic HTML tags? Yeah, a few maybe. Okay, let me go through those really quick, and then I'll introduce a few more in newer ones in what we're going to be demoing today. So this is just, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to try and make a BYU grad plan and say like when we took things or when we will take things to get into the core, which is very, 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 very similar to the group project. It's just a little bit different, honestly. Really quick, tags. They're going to have an opening and closing. There are a few tags that do not have an opening and closing, like an image tag, the break tag, the HR tag. Those are just a few that you won't see a closing tag in it. Opening tag, closing tag, and then our content is what goes in between each of them. So that's what it's typically going to look like. Doc type doesn't have a closing tag. However, we do want to specify that we're using doc type HTML at the beginning of our document. The next tag is the HTML tag. This is just saying, hey, we're going to have HTML inside of here. The head tag is where we're going to put, is the first thing that goes inside our HTML, and it's going to be where we put all our meta information, our title, where we're going to link to different style, or link to, yeah, style sheets, and then import scripts, different script documents, like our JavaScripts, like that main.js that I just showed. The title can go inside of the head, and that's what will show up here in the tab. You can see that. The title is what actually shows up there. Then our body comes after our head, and that's where we're actually, everything that's visual on the page, that's where it goes. So our p tag defines a paragraph, just as you would expect in like as a normal paragraph. Image, you're going to have a source and then alt. So this, so that when it shows up, it'll import the picture from whatever the URL is that you give it. And then for screen readers and things like that, you actually need to have an alt tag. It's actually illegal if you don't have them. So make sure to have alt tags on. It's only illegal if your page is actually published to the web. So add alt tags. It could just be a blank thing, but those are good. Or alt attributes, sorry, not alt tags. H1 to H6 is just different size headers. So H1 being the biggest, and then H6 being the smallest. And that's what they look like. An A tag is a hyperlink, so that's how we link to different pages. So you use href to describe what the where you want to go, and then just a little, and then you can say what you want the text of the link to be. Your UI is an unordered list. So this is just like a bulleted list with list items inside of it. And those would just be the different bullets. So like IS33. Okay. An ordered list is the same thing as a UL, an unordered list, but it uses numbers instead of bullets. And then a button is obviously a button on a page. Now I just went through these quick because we should have gone through these at the beginning of the whole class, and I think a lot of people already know a bunch of these. We're going to get into a few more with like our form input, select, and things like that today. So let me show you what we're gonna, any questions thus far, actually? Like, if you guys have questions, I'm here to really just help you guys review.
So how was this button different than the button that he showed us in his code? It was like...
Was it an input button?
It like executed something after you clicked it.
Oh, like it was like on click.
Yeah, it was a non-click.
Yeah, so yeah, you can, one of the attributes you can add to button is on click. So that kind of brings us back to, these are all objects. So they all have attributes. If we go back and look at the image, so the image has a source attribute. That's the lingo for HTML. You could say that's a property, or it's variable. So we're setting those things. So with an on click, we're setting that when this button is clicked on, do this thing. And you can do on click with like anything, really. I mean, I don't know why you'd want to do it on like a line break, but you might not be able to there, but yeah.
So you just said that's like the HTML lingo. So are objects only talking about like in HTML?
No, so everything, so like all these things are objects. So what we'd say in JavaScript, like an object has properties and methods. In HTML, an object is going to have attributes. So we're just setting the attribute. If we're thinking in JavaScript, we're setting the property. Does that make sense? Or the method. It's all just attributes in HTML. Any other questions? Okay. Let's just look at this really quick. So basically, I wanted to make something that was really, really similar to your project that you already have assigned, and this one was pretty much the same thing. So I just thought it would be kind of cool if we made something that was like, okay, we can come in here, we can select when did we take this class, or when did we take this class. And I don't know when people took things, so I just put a ton of stuff on there. We can shorten it. Or if we have taken it, when did we take it? If we will take it, when we will take it. And then if we get into the junior core, do we want to be in the morning section, the afternoon section, and then do we want to apply to the masters? I don't know if we'll get to the create part, and I haven't actually like done anything with that, so we can play around with that, but we're going to try and get this set up because part of your project is making it look professional. Let me go to Learning Suite quick. Is that even on here? There we go. So if you look at this, it's really similar where it's like, what grades did you get in each of these classes? So you will pretty much have to change, instead of having the, like the year, instead of having a year, you're going to have a grade instead. And then whether or not you retook it, and then you're going to calculate like the chances of getting in. And that's all the JavaScript and everything that you have to do behind it. We're just going to focus on HTML. But what Dr. Anderson has put on this is that if you just do this and you get it all working and everything fine, that's 85%. We want it to look professional, look better. You don't need to be, it doesn't need to look amazing. If you just do something like this, then like that'll be fine. We just don't want it being like everything to the left and looking kind of blah. I mean, and this is still blah, but it's better than what it was before. So yeah, let's get started. Any other questions about HTML that you want me to answer before we kind of get into this like hands-on part? There is a part on the test he kind of talked about today where you'll be getting stuff from like document.getElement by ID. So you'll need to know that. The rest of this, like using a select or using a radio button or a checkbox, will not be on the test. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up a new HTML file. So if you just open a file and then you can press Command K and then M or Control. Oops. That didn't work. Oh my gosh. Why is that not working now? Just kidding. I don't know why it's not working. Let's just do this. You can come down here and change it from plain text to HTML. And that'll make all the syntax and everything work correctly and all the coloring and in your HTML document. So let's just start out with creating just a basic HTML page. So we're going to start with our doc type, your HTML, close it. We're going to create our head. In here, let's just add a title and say like HTML review. Yeah, title. And then we're going to come down here and create our body. Okay. Is everyone good there? If you need me to slow down or anything, let me know. If I'm going too slow, let me know. Okay. So if we look, we're just going to kind of copy what I already had here. Yeah, sure. Just kidding. I'm not going to save that. Don't save. Let's just move this over. So right now we're just going to pretty much copy exactly what I did over here. So we're going to start with an H1 tag. And this H1, we're just going to put BYU grad plan. Just like here, and let's go ahead and save that. I'm just going to save it as review 1. And if we go, so I'm just going to, you can save it as whatever you want. Just do your live server, and then we can show it on the screen. So now we got BYU grad plan. Awesome. Okay. So the next part that we see that we have this prereqs part. Before we get into that, what you don't see in the background is we actually have a form. So a form element in HTML is really useful for when you need to get information. Right now we're getting a bunch of selects. You can have input text boxes. You can have a bunch of different things, text areas, to get whatever information you want from the user. So we're going to start with a form element. And right now, and so that's kind of like what you see. You don't see that. But next we see this prereqs section, right? So let's go ahead and we'll create that. And the way that we do that is with something called a form set. So a form set is basically just aggregating some of the things, or not aggregating, but like grouping the different parts of a form together so that it's like one block. So we see here we want like this is a block here as far as prereqs. This is a different block under required. This is a different block under morning. Okay. Let's see. So within here we have a title for that section. Now the title that we're going to use when using a form set is called legend. And these are a whole bunch of tags that we have not talked about before. Yep.
Could these also be considered divs?
I wouldn't use div for these. Div is talking more about like, I want a container of this part of my code. You could. What's nice about this stuff is that there's already styles embedded in, depending on your browser. And so we already get some added benefit to it. Does that make sense?
Without having to do like CSS.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the CSS to make things prettier and things, but for now we're just gonna kind of try and work this out. So in this legend, let's just say prereqs, okay? Okay. So we don't really have anything yet here. And that's just, there's nothing in it yet. Okay. Is everyone good until there? Legend is kind of like just saying what the title of this form set is. I will Slack this out. Yeah, let me just grab some of this stuff, because it's way easier than typing on it. I gotta make this a little smaller so you can see everything that's going on. So while Slack is opening, I will get this up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce two new elements as well. Yeah. So we're going to have the select element. We're going to have select, and we're going to have option. So what select does is it actually creates this like the select box, and option, the option element is what we actually put into each box, or the different options that we have there. So with a select element, oh, sorry, let me get to label too. Label is what we use to create the label for our input box. So your input could be a normal input tag. It could be something called text area. It could be select. It could be radio buttons. It could be a checkbox. It could be a button. But label is what we can use to actually like say, hey, this label is for this thing, so that we can clearly see that. So here I'm saying this label is for some sort of input, and this is actually what the ID of the input is. So I'm saying that this select, it has a name called IS201, and also its ID, its unique identifier, is also IS201. Within this, we have options. Each option has a value. The value is what is going to get, we can actually select what that value is in our JavaScript. When we're going in looking for, actually looking for what this select returns, we can say, hey, get document.getElement by ID IS201, and then pick whichever option is selected, and then get the value of that object. Does that kind of make sense? I can kind of, let me write a script tag. Yeah.
Could you also do like get the dot and HTML of that?
You could. A lot of times what's going to happen is your fall 2012, what actually shows there is going to be different than the value. Okay. So for example, with your project, you're going to want to put like A minus, B plus, but what that actually, the value of that is like a 4, because it's a 4.0 scale. The value of your A minus is going to be 3.7, because when you do all your calculations and the value that you actually want, here is just an example. So if I was doing a script tag and I wanted to get that, I could do something like document.getElement by ID IS201 dot selected, I think. I can never remember. Sorry guys, I was not prepared for that yet. Oh wait, let me just go back here.
I think it automatically gives you the select.
I think you are right. And then I can just do dot value. So now I could set like var is201 equals that. So now I have a variable that's going to have the value of whatever my selected item is. So in this case, like fall 2012 would be what would get put into is201. So let's just save this for a second and review this. Oh, did I say form set? I meant field set. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. So the field set creates the box around everything, which we can change, and we can change the styling of that and everything, but I like that it groups it and kind of makes it clear that this is its own group. Let me also get all these. I will just slack this out. Where are you on it? In general? Okay. Oh, fun tip. If you do plus and then code snippet, then and then you can change like what language it is, and then you can put it in there so it's not like it doesn't just come out as like plain text, but it actually looks like the text or like that whatever it's supposed to be. So for our review, so you can go ahead and just copy and paste that into your code. Does everyone kind of see what's going on thus far? And does anyone have any questions about these new elements that we're talking about?
Could you explain the label?
Yeah.
Is that just for viewing? I could just tell you that's what it is.
Yeah. So that's just saying that for this input that we have, we're giving it a label of whatever's inside here. So rather than using like a p tag, which you could do, p tags are going to have a few different properties to it. For example, we'll see how it bumped it down. What's standard in HTML is to just use a label, and then for each of your inputs. Does that make sense?
Do you always have to have name and ID?
I would always do name and ID with everything. This is going to be, we won't be getting into this right now. It's going to be more useful for when you're actually submitting a form that goes on and does like more processing than that we're doing. Right now, we're just using like the .get element by ID to get everything. But you could submit a form and it would compile all the inputs that you have, use the name attribute so that you can reference them, and then be able to access them later. Does that make sense? So get into the habit of it.
So when on the first option you had already hard-coded selected, does that just mean it's going to default to fall 2012?
Yeah, which I think that it already does default to it. So like if I got rid of it and saved, and it's still as fall 2012, but it's a good habit that when you have a select, like all your options, to have one of them as like your default. Did you have a question?
So what's the difference between the name and ID?
So the ID, the name is just used for the form for when you're actually submitting, and so you can access it later on. The ID is how we can actually specify that specific element. Name is not always unique on your page. With radio buttons, you're going to have the same name for both of them, so that it knows, hey, you can. Radio buttons are mutually exclusive. So like if I put morning, I can't also put afternoon. So they both have the same name, so that your HTML document knows, oh, hey, he can't have both. But they each can have their own unique ID, so I can actually get a value from it. Okay. Okay, let's keep going. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to copy and paste a bunch of these. So go ahead and copy and paste like this label. You can probably just delete a ton of this. I don't know when people just delete it. I don't care. So like, let's include the label. So if we can copy and paste this, we're going to add a BR tag. Who's seen it? You guys have all seen the BR tag, right? Okay, BR is just a line break. So we just want to say, hey, we want a line break, and then let's do like IS303 as the next one. And this can be IS303 or CS142, which you could have taken both, but you're all here. So let's save that to see what happens. So now we see that we start getting some more items over here. Maybe, do you guys want 2 line breaks? Does that look a little squished? Yeah, okay, let's add another one. Okay, that looks better. So we're gonna go ahead and add for all the prereqs, which after that we have accounting 200. We have, oh, and don't forget to add your BRs. We have, what, Finance 201. And then we have, is it marketing?
Yeah.
Is it possible to create a function in HTML so you wouldn't have to type out like winter 2018 through spring 2020 every single time?
Yeah. That gets more into like, that would be a great reason to have like a framework where, because honestly, that's a great way to think about it is like, you know, I just have an array of values. That's basically what that is, right? And I just want to do a for loop to create a bunch of options with each of those values. Things like React, Angular, Vue, that's a perfect use case for those kind of things. Here in what we've been talking about, it's better just to hard code it for now. But like more advanced stuff, yes, that is exactly what we need. Is it marketing 200 or 201? 201. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Sweet. You can wait a second here. Any other questions about like select or option? I think they're pretty straightforward, I think, what they do. Oh, I got rid of the selected. It doesn't really matter for now. You guys want me to keep going or pause here to catch up? Yeah, I can pause. Trying to think of anything else.
I have a question. I didn't really understand what is form and field set.
Okay, I think you came in after I talked about those. I can explain quick again.
Oh, sorry.
There, you're good. So form, we don't really see that on the page. The form is just telling, it's something in HTML that it's just like, hey, this is a form. So every time you sign up for an account on any website or you put in your username and everything, they're using a form element in there. Within your form, you're gonna have your different inputs. So like when you're putting in your name, your username and password, and like net ID and password, those are your different inputs to get into BYU. So that's all in a form tag. Field set just groups your inputs together. So like here, I'm saying that in this block of my form, these are all my prereqs inputs. And so I want to just say, hey, they're all combined kind of thing. And then the legend is just the title for your forms or field set. So I keep saying form set. It's not a form set. Okay. I'm going to keep going now. So let's look back at this really quick. Okay, so we're going to put in another required really quick. So we're going to start with another field set. Actually, no, you guys tell me what to do. If I want to put in these, What do I have to do? Someone tell me. A new field set. Okay, now what? Legend. Label. Required. Okay. It's looking good. Now what should I do? I should look and see what it looks like. There it is. What'd you say? Okay, new label. What do we want this label to be for? MCOM. Okay, we want it to be MCOM. Is there anything else we need for, is it 320?
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we need anything else for label? Four. Okay, so we're gonna need our 4. And we don't have our select in there yet, but we know that we're probably just going to name it MCOM 320, right? Okay. So at this point, what do I need? Select. Okay. Now what? Name and ID. Okay. Perfect. Okay. And then in here, I'm just going to copy and paste this. Because why rewrite all that? Let's just add a space here. Let's see what that looks like now. Awesome. Now we can select different things. Okay. Let's just leave that one there. Do you guys want to add in the other 2 really quick? Or do you want to like keep going and see other things? That's fine. Okay. This part isn't on your whatchamacallit, but I think that it's valuable to see that how you can use these. Okay, so let's go ahead and create this part of the field set. So this is a little bit different because this is going to have radio buttons rather than a select with a bunch of options. So we're going to create another field set. We're going to give it a legend. This legend is going to be junior core. Junior core, let's call it junior core section. How about that? That's a little bit more descriptive. And in here, we know that we want morning and afternoon. Any thoughts on how we want to do that? You might have seen something before out in the wild with these. So we're going to be using something called input. So input is one of those weird tags that doesn't get anything inside of it. There's no content in it. So like here, junior core section is the content of legend. Input doesn't get anything inside of it. It can have a value, it can have a placeholder, depending on the type, but it doesn't actually have anything. So if we do input here, we need to give it a name, just like we did before. So let's give it a name of junior. All this is saying is my junior core option, because I'm going to give it a type of radio. What I talked about before was that with radio buttons, they're mutually exclusive. So we're going to actually want it, before we do anything else, let's just duplicate this one, because we're going to want 2 radio buttons, one for morning and one for afternoon. They're both going to be an input of type radio, and they're both going to be named junior so that the document knows that these 2 items, like you can only select one of them. They can't both be selected. Does that make sense to everyone, or like how they're mutually exclusive?
They have to have the same name, right?
Yeah. So now we see that there's 2 buttons, right? And you can only select one of them, but there's no name yet because we haven't done one. So now what we can do is we can say, okay, this one's going to be morning, and this one is going to be afternoon. And this is just text in here right now, which it feels weird that you can just put text there, and it's like, it's in the field set, but it's not in between anything else. It's kind of funky. And we'll get back to like how to fix that and how to make that a little better. So I save that. Now I have my morning, afternoon.
And could you put a break in there if you wanted to?
Yeah. So we could do a break in here. I'm going to get into some CSS to show how, and I'm going to add more stuff later on to show how we can kind of get around that. But I'm going to get rid of that for now. But yeah, typically with radio buttons, you want to have them as like vertical, horizontal. Let me see if there's anything else with that one. Yeah, I did give them IDs. So let's give them IDs as well. ID equals morning. ID equals afternoon. Okay. So that's awesome. Now we've been introduced to the input and this type of radio. Okay. Any questions about that so far?
Is there a reason why you use single quotes and not double quotes? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I go back and forth. There's no standard at this point, especially with HTML and JavaScript. Just so that I can reference them later. I think that I tried to do something earlier with them. I'm kind of going off what I did earlier. I'm thinking now that I don't need them, but we're just going to use them for now. Okay, and let's do this checkbox. So this checkbox is, hey, after I'm done with the junior core, do I want to do the masters? Which, if you get in the junior core and you can do the masters, I highly suggest it. So we're gonna make another field set, just like before. I'm gonna create legend with masters. And now, to do a checkbox, sorry, I should bring this up. We're going to be doing the same input where you can give a name of like masters or whatever, but this type is going to be checkbox instead. Now we have our checkbox. But we're going to say we need to say, hey, what is the text that goes to checkbox? Apply for the user. Save that. Now, the reason that these don't go with labels is because they're not really the labels for what you want to do here. And I'm thinking about it. I actually want value in here. Actually, no, I don't. It's just checked. So they're not really the labels for. Let me think about this. Let's look this up because I might have gotten something wrong. HTML input radio. So W3 School is a great place to put it. Value, that's what I want, not ID. Okay, so I actually just want to change these to value. See?
Is it the same with the checkbox?
It probably will be. Let's see what this says. Sorry, I forget some of this stuff like all the time. Checkbox also has value. So let's just say the value here is like true. Okay. We're gonna, yeah. We'll just leave it at that. And that's just true because when it comes in, we just want to know that, hey, they want to do the MISM. That's all that that's saying. So the value is saying that when we're actually getting that when we're getting it, this is what's actually being shown as like, kind of like up here, where our option had a value that's actually going to be what we get. The winter 2018 is what actually shows up. So this value doesn't show up anywhere. All that shows up is morning. At least it should. I hope it does. Yeah. Cool. And then let's just see. You guys have seen the text inputs already in like the HTML or the homework 5. Do you guys want to see one of those in here too? Yeah. Yes. Okay. I'm not really sure what to put in here, so we're just going to make something up. So if we just had another field set, legend, text box, text box. Actually, we'll do text boxes so that I can show you both, or two different kinds. Normally for text box, you want to have a label. So for just a text example, and then input type equal, oh my gosh, type equals text. What's cool with your text input is you could also have a placeholder equals place. Let's just, like, you can have it be anything you want. Here I'm just going to say placeholder. And so that's how they're able to put in like that default text there. But then once you start typing like hello world, it goes away automatically. Let me zoom in on that too. So when there's nothing in it, it can just leave a placeholder. So that's one of those attributes of your input. Yeah. At least for as long as your input's of type text. You can also have it set as a default value like Peter. So if you're doing a name or something. So now when I go in here, it's not just disappearing, but it's actually the value, and I can change. So now it goes back to placeholder. Now I can change it to IS303. So you can have a value, you can have a default value, you can have a placeholder, so on. And then another kind of, let's do another label for text area. Text area example. Text area. Let's just see what that looks like for now. In your text area, this is going to be like a multi-line text box, which there's already attributes in it to make it expandable and everything. Text area I always have to look up because I'm like, oh, it's just like input, and then for some things it's not. Let me just look this up. So you can set the rows and the columns on it. So you can say like, this is how wide I want it to be, this is how many columns I want it to be. We can just try doing that really quick. Rows equals 4, rows equals 50. Okay, so now we can see it expands, and then we can put like a default text in there. This is some text. So it's already in there. So unlike input, this one, text area actually has an end or a closing bracket or a closing tag as well.
So I want to expand if the text just keeps going on.
This one?
Yeah.
Let's try it. So it just is going to have the little button or the little scroll. But you also, there's also like a little thing down here so that you can resize it. So I can resize it so that it's not, which, yeah. So that's great if you have multi-line text that you need. And you can also do things to like lock it so that people can't go and change it. So like disabled is going to be something that you can't like put anything into it. Max length, how long, things like that. If you go to W3 Schools, what's awesome here is that it will tell you all the different attributes. So I only have done a few attributes for a few things. But in here, you can go and do like a bunch of different attributes for things so that you're not just stuck with the things that I've shown you. Okay, cool. So we've gotten there. We've added more than this. It doesn't look pretty yet. We'll get to that. But I mean, like, we have a pretty good form here. And this is, a bunch of these are going to be exactly what you need to do on your project. You need to put in different selects. You need to have some text inputs as well. And so now let's just look at the buttons. I'm just going to copy these from what we have here. So then, as our last thing, let me just make this bigger quick. We can have these buttons. So I literally just copied this from Dr. Anderson's code for how he solved it, the project one. So he has a function called calcgpa and a function called clearCircle. So definitely have those in your program. This button is just obviously type button. We're creating it, and its onClick function is going to be that. This one, or this is create. Let's say like, yeah, create is fine. And then onClick, reset. We're not going to be using these, but kind of cool to see them. Oops, this one. And then now we have them on our page. Okay. So we've pretty much we have this layout where now at this point we could like start doing the JavaScript and do everything to turn it in. And you guys understand? Do you guys feel like you have a good understanding of the get document or get element by ID now? Yeah. Yes. No. Thumbs up if you do. Okay. A little side. A little bit. Not really. Okay.
Can you think of it as kind of like a control F?
Yeah, you could.
Like control F, find this, plug it in.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily plug it in, but it'll pull it up.
Let me try and explain it a little bit differently as well. So like, okay, what do you guys expect if I do something like that? Does anyone have any ideas what to expect there?
Would it make the variable is201 equal the stuff under selected with ID is201?
Yeah. So it's literally gonna go into your document, which is just your HTML and everything. It's going to find the element that has the ID is201, and it's just going to spit it back out into this is201 variable. So now at this point, is201, the variable, is this guy. Does that make sense? Like, it is that object. You can do whatever you want to that object. You're basically parsing your document by doing this. So if your document is this whole thing, get element by ID is going to parse it, look exactly for what you specify, and then return that specific little part of the document. Does that kind of make sense? You had to.
So is it, let's say like you, for example, what you showed us today that you put in a p tag.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something in that p tag, would it erase that and put what in, like put what you tell it to, or would it just addition, like add it to it?
So that's a great question. So like if I did is201 inner HTML, and I said, well, now I just want it to be something else, right? What that's going to do is it's going to take, it's saying, okay, let's just bring this to a new page. JavaScript. Saying, okay, I have this, right? This is the variable is201 because I grabbed it and now I'm only looking at this part of the document. Now it says, okay, take the inner HTML and set it equal to this. So it's going to take it, it's going to say, oh, well, this is everything that's inside that element, right? Because this element includes the beginning part and the end part. Take everything that's inside of it, get rid of it, and change it to something else. Set it equal, reassign it to whatever you did here.
That's what inner HTML does.
That's what inner HTML is doing.
Get element just grabs it.
Get element just grabs it. So like I could say that this is, this right here is is201, the variable.
So let's say you alerted is201, would it come up as just a list of all of those?
Let's try it really quick. Sorry. Let's just do, okay, I don't care. So if we do document.get element by ID is201, And let's actually set this equal to something. So we're going to say var is201 equals that. So now if we do alert is201, let's see what happens. So what's funky is that it's like, hey, you have this selected, you have this object. It's like, I don't know how to print that out in a format. Does that make sense? So the HTML, when the browser will know how to read the HTML and spit it out in something that looks nice. The JavaScript is like, I know it's an HTML object. I even know it's a select object. I don't know how to tell you anything. I don't know how to like show that nicely. Does that make sense? But if we come in here and just, let's see, is201, if we like just do dot, we talked about earlier that the dot will show us all the properties, attributes, methods, whatever, of that object. Well, we can come in here and we can see all the different things about it. So we can see its name. We can see its options. So maybe we do options. Let's see what happens. Oh, it shows us an HTML collection of all of the different options that it has. Does that make sense? So JavaScript is going to act like, it'll access the different attributes about it a little bit differently than you see in HTML, but they're still there.
What if you do console?
I think it'll just come out as the same thing. Oh, no, console.log doesn't. It knows how to do it there. Which is difficult because sometimes if you just want like to know all the things about it, but this actually shows it. Good point. Okay, let's just, is it cool if I show you guys some CSS for how to make this kind of look prettier? Okay. CSS is kind of fun. CSS is confusing, but it's fun. Okay. Is it cool if we try and make it look like this again? Okay. Let's try and do this. So we're gonna have to change a few things, but for the most part, we'll be good. Let's. Okay, so what I have here is I'm gonna need to add something called a div called a class container. So div, like we said, is just going to be your, like, it is a container for a bunch of different elements. So this is going to wrap around your entire thing. Everything that's inside of the body. So div class equals container. I'm going to take that. And the closing tag, I'm going to paste right before my body there. Let me just realign all these items. Okay. So now everything is inside this class called container. And then when I save that, we should see nothing changes. It's just a div. It just means that, hey, there's something that's wrapping all of us, but nothing's different. So I'm going to change a few things now. And we'll add this other div called center box. We'll get to that in a moment. For now, how about we try making the making this guy, we're going to make him centered. So let's start a style tag. So the style tag is just saying, hey, we want all these styles applied to this document. And we're going to add h1 and text align center. So in 201, you guys did some stuff like this, right? Okay. So you're going to add that in. Now you got that centered. So sorry, I'm just going to kind of cheat off of what I did here. Let's go and change the field set now. I don't know, do you guys like having the whole border around, or would you rather have the border just at the top? Just the top? Okay, let's try that out. So the way I do this, so field set already has border like inherently assigned to it just from your browser. So we're going to overwrite that by saying border 0. That gets rid of all borders all the way around. Here, let's count that out. So it gets rid of everything. And then we're going to say border top, 1 pixel groove, and then let's do like, I don't know, let's do something not There. Let's do something like that. Well, I think I just changed the black, so maybe it got overwritten again. So border top is just, it's just saying, hey, I want the top border to be 1 pixel. I want it to have a groove, and that's where legend goes in. And then I'm trying to change the color, but I think it's getting overwritten by the browser, which is fine. So now it looks kind of nicer, right? And it doesn't have the border all the way around. If you like the border, keep it. I'm not saying you have to get rid of the border. So let's see, what else did we do here? Oh, let's change the legend. How about, is the legend being centered okay? No? I'm gonna change it. I like having a legend centered. So now we have the legend centered. So now, and I mean, you could even have it like be on the right if you want for some reason. Let's just do that for a minute so that it can be kind of funny. And then we're gonna get into the container now. So these other things were super simple. We're just changing the text alignment and changing the border. Now we're gonna get into something else called flex, which you do not need to know this. However, it is cool and it does make everything way nicer. So there's something called, there's different displays within within your CSS. You're gonna have block level elements and inline level elements just naturally occurring. For example, your p tag is a block level element that will expand to its entire parent container. The display on that is going to be block, so we can change this to block. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of displays that you could have. Like if you just look through this, there's a ton. One of the most popular ones right now to use is something called Flex, where it basically will help to flex everything in different ways on your page so that it kind of is more responsive. So we're going to do something called Flex, and the flex direction is column. We want everything to be stacked up in one column, just like we have over here. And how it naturally is, but we just need to specify that there. We're going to say that we want to justify our content to be centered so that everything is centered on the page, so that it looks all nice and organized. Our text align is going to be centered so that, actually we might not need that one. Let's try it out. We're going to set the width to 50%. That means that we're going to only take up 50% of everything that we can, 50% of the viewport here. So that, like here, it's taking up 100%. But that's a bit big for this form. We don't really need all that. We just need about 50. And then we're going to have the margins auto, which will say, okay, your right and your left margins, we're just going to have them auto so that you're centered on the page. So if we go ahead and save this, we're going to see that first off, it shrunk everything down. So the window, as we make it bigger, like it makes it so that from here to here, your container's width is 50% of whatever's available, but the margin is making it so that it stays in the center, so that your margin is automatically going to be the same on each side. And then the flex direction column makes everything stay in the same column kind of space, and our center just makes everything kind of centered like that. Okay. Next, we're just, the thing that looks kind of funny now, oops, wrong one, is that these are all kind of misaligned. And we want these to be also vertically stacked, just to make it look a little prettier. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to add another div around a few things, and we're going to call that div, the class that we're going to give that div is center box. So specifically, we're going to give it around our selects. Oh, that's something else we need to do. We're going to do two things. We're going to introduce span, and we're going to add this div with a class center box. So the span tag, it's kind of like div, but it's an inline element. What it's basically doing is it's just going to be grouping your pieces of text. So we're going to go over to our different selects. We're going to say span. And we're just going to put everything in there. So you guys can, if you're following along, go ahead and do that. I'm just going to do this quick. If you're in VS Code, there's a cool way to do this. If you do Command-Shift-P, or on Windows, a Control-Shift-P, and then you can do emit wrap with abbreviation. So then you can say, and then you press enter after you've done that, and then you can say what you want it wrapped in. And so then it just automatically creates the elements before and after, the before and after tags. So I'm going to do that quick. And
What was that one?
Control-Shift-P, or Command-Shift-P on a Mac, Control-Shift-P on a Windows, I think. And it should bring up this box. This is kind of in VS Code. This is like your go-to, hey, I want to do this extension, do things like that. And then you can say emit wrap with abbreviation. It should just automatically be in there. So what we're doing is we're actually grouping our label with our select for each of these, so that they are all, yeah, label goes within the span. So that then they're kind of looked at as like one item together. I think I got all the labels in there. No, I didn't. Thank you. That's my bad. That's the whole point of doing this. If we didn't need to do that, if we didn't need the labels in there, then we wouldn't do that. Okay. So we've got that around there. And then what we're also going to want to do is put a span around our radio buttons so that the morning and afternoon text goes with it. I forgot to do that. Okay. And also around our checkbox. Okay. Sorry, this part is kind of tedious, but this is what will help make everything look a little bit more professional and help you get that better grade. The last thing that we're going to need to add is this other div that I talked about with a class of center box. So center box, we're going to have a class called center box so that we can add some styles to this div, which are going to be some more kind of flex styling. We need to put that center box around, we're going to put it around everything after the legend for each of our field sets. So we take that div, get rid of that, we put it before the end of our field set. That makes sense? So now we're going to have a div that inside of our field set that wraps around all of our selects, which seems weird. It's like, why do we have a field set that kind of groups them all together and then a div around everything? The field set is grouping it for the form, but then we're using the div to apply different styling to it. So let's just save that for a sec. And I will
change how the options appears at the text box too. Like if you italicize them.
Let's give that a try quick.
I'm just curious because I know it's already.
Yeah. So if we do like font, let's just say like font size, or let's just do color blue. On here it's not. Let's see if this one will do it. Okay, so you have to do it to your select. And you can change the color. So it'll just change, this box that shows up is kind of like that's Chrome that creates that box. I don't really have control over, there is some way for me to get control over that, but I'm not gonna worry about that right now. But if I go in there, then I can change like what's actually selected. So I'm just going to copy this center box. It's going to give the display for everything with the class center box. This display is now going to be inline flex. The flex direction is going to be column, and it's going to align items to the start. That looks funky there, but oh, it's because we have all those breaks in there too. Here, and I'll post this stuff out too. So let me get rid of some of these breaks. It looks like finance label did not get included. Okay. Okay, so maybe one break would be okay there, but okay. So now I can see that this is aligned on the one side. Like for all these, they're aligned on one side, and it just looks a lot nicer than it was before. If we move the legend thing back over to the center, we're gonna have it all centered. Down here in our radio button, if we add in that div with the class of center box, and just stick everything in it, then we're going to be able to have them stacked. So I think that this is a great way to make your styles look nice, have your page look professional. I know Davis and I talked about it, and we're like, yeah, if we see someone that has something like this, then they get 100. Like, it's professional enough. You don't need to add crazy. You can go above and beyond with this if you want for the project, but like this looks great. Let's see. Does anyone have any questions about HTML in general? Do you guys feel like we've done a bunch with HTML and like you feel more confident with it? Okay. I think that like actually using it is the best way to feel more confident with it. No. Go for it.
Do you know if any like live server kind of like Google Docs before writing code that might be useful for our group?
So you can all write at the same time?
Yeah.
VS Code actually has it. What is it? Live share. VS Live Share. Yeah, so you can get VS Live Share, and then I can like open this up and say start collaboration session, and then send out the link to other people, and then you can all be working on the same page or like same thing at the same time. Another thing that's cool that we never told you, but I think that you had good practice with this stuff already. If you right click and say format document, it like does all the indentation for you.
What?
Yeah. So it's not always the best, and sometimes it's like I wish I could have indented it differently. But you guys have had enough time working on like all your indentation now. You know what it should be, so keep that a secret for everyone that didn't come. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's the real word for this. So yeah, I'll send this out, and yeah, you can stick around if you have any questions and stuff, but hope that was helpful.
Thank you.